For both of you, it's the second time actually this year, but that's because our schedule had gone a little bit helter-skelter because of COVID. Hopefully, it'll come back to once a year routine from 2023. Anyway,
so our startups are doing so well. Even if you were to award them twice a year, you would still not be able to recognize all the good ones.
No, it's a... No, you're absolutely right, because some of our lists of nominees are actually so strong that one feels bad, because I've been part of the selection process, also selecting one winner. I think they're all winners, and it's a great city. Just wanted to, so there are many questions that one can ask you, from exports to FTAs and industry in general. But let me just start off with a startup-related question, which obviously India has emerged as one of the largest startup ecosystem in the world, the third largest after the US and China. We've now had hundreds of unicorns. Now, obviously, how do you see this playing out with the global economy now, seeing a flight to safety? There is risk capital is obviously declining, risk appetite is declining. Do you think India can be some kind of a safe haven as far as startups is concerned?
The last 2 days, we have been engaged with the prominent players of the startup ecosystem at Bengaluru. And I must say the enthusiasm, the energy was truly infectious. The mood is very good. And this morning, in one of the presentations that was made before all of us, one of the important elements that was made out was easy money never helps a startup succeed. A little tight-fisted, tough time is always good for a startup to come up with innovative ideas, with better thought processes and more affordable solutions to our day-to-day problems. And therefore, I don't see capital determining the success or failure of our startups. Our startups are very much focused on game-changing ideas. They're looking at day-to-day issues that business faces, that our people in their lives face, coming up with very innovative and smart solutions. And when the times are tough, that's the real time when one is encouraged to do better. While some of the international companies are talking of layoffs today, our Indian startups are offering to hire them in, including some of the persons who are on your panel. I think Harsh also mentioned that he would be hiring people. Cool. Frankly, every day that I see Twitter and all the mess that they are in, I'm so happy that I was one of the first to get on to Coup. And I think Coup should take over Twitter. That's the strength of Indian entrepreneurs, our startups. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that these tough times that the world is facing are an opportunity we should not miss.
So one of the ways that you can perhaps do that, and I don't know whether where there's a seller for Twitter right now, there may soon be given the situation, but is to create a very strong domestic VC industry. China has a very large sort of state-backed VC industry, startup industry. How do we do that in India?
Well, one thing is for certain that the Chinese economy got a head start over India in the early 80s. We really embarked on that process with baby steps in 91. But it's only after 2014 that we saw the Indian banking system getting cleaned up. We saw foundational changes to our economic framework. The whole startup movement also was launched by the Prime Minister on 16th of January 2016. Until that time, we had about 500 startups registered in the ministry or in the government, maybe a few more other than that. And by and large, the culture was people wanted to look for a job. People wanted to get into government or get into a private sector job. And the traditional glide path was do your studies, go abroad if you can. If you can't go abroad, you don't get admission, you look for a IIM at best in India and then look for a job. Today, I see young kids and Startup India engages with them even when they are in school. I see young kids, 12, 13, coming up with some very exciting ideas. Some of them as social ideas, some of them very interesting economic solutions to the problems that we have, and some scientific solutions. So my own sense and reading is that while we may have started off late, we are catching up much faster than anybody had imagined. So in the last few years, and Mr. Vaishnav just showed us an excellent presentation, where he highlighted the change of mindset of the nation. And Prime Minister Modi is focusing on these structural changes which will help this country in thinking big, thinking transformational. We have to get out of the traditional path of incremental gains. And I think today the country is not going to settle for anything but truly big ticket reform, big ticket outcomes. And therefore, despite the COVID pandemic, despite the geopolitical situation being so worrying across the world, the entire planet today recognizes that India is that bright spot. Whether you talk to an economist, whether you talk to world leaders, talk to any banker, they all recognize India as the bright spot. India will lead the charge, the revival of world economies. And I personally believe that India should not be planning for anything less than a $30 trillion economy as the base case when we celebrate India at 100 in 2047. I would think that if we all put our heart and head to it and put in that little effort that Prime Minister Modi articulated in his Panch Pran on 15th August, the fifth commitment that he sought from the nation was that we'll all look at making India a developed nation as our duty. और उस कर्तव्य भावना से अगर हम सब लग जाते हैं और हमारे स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम में तो पूरी ताकत है, पूरी काबिलियत है करने के लिए, तो I would think that even a $40 trillion economy as the CII is projecting by 2047 is not beyond imagination.
No, let's hope that happens, and we'll soon be I think the third largest by hopefully the end of this decade, even according to most projections.
But aspire for more.
No, yeah, of course. I just wanted to ask you, one of this government has had very strong Atmanirbhar Swadeshi orientation in backing domestic industry, right? If you look at the defense sector, everything from drones to advanced weapon systems has been opened up to the Indian private sector. The space, we just saw the first private sector space launch, earlier this week. With specifically for the startup sector, and one can even bring in events like the Ukraine war and the sanctions that were imposed on Russia. Now, whether justified or not, there are lessons. For example, WhatsApp, you would argue, is essential infrastructure in India. So how does that, obviously, coup is an alternative to Twitter, and let's see how that happens. But what is your thinking in this regard?
First of all, Bodhi, I think the media also needs to change its mindset. It's time you got some confidence in you.
Sure.
Even when I was talking of the economy numbers, I somehow didn't get the impression that you were enthusiastic about those numbers. And let me therefore articulate, because Economic Times, I think, needs to also do their maths. If you look at the Indian economy over the last 25 years, and you'll all agree the last 25 years is really not what we see the next 25 years to be. But if you see the last 25 years, we were a $270 billion economy 25 years ago. We closed 2021 at about 3.2 trillion. That's about 11x growth in 25 years. And it translates to 8.72%. 8.72% compounded annual growth rate in US dollar terms. Now, of course, we all understand, and I'm sure Economic Times more than anybody else, that we have a certain real growth, we have inflation, And then we have
You
a
have a
rupee
nominal,
depreciation, which
Yeah.
finally, the nominal growth, and then we have a rupee
Yeah.
depreciation, which gives us the growth number in dollars. Now, even if we were to just extrapolate that number at 8.72% from 21 to 2047, you are looking at a $32 trillion economy. Just at that
Yeah.
level, and we are still quite low
we
in terms of base.
We are trained to think of next day's headline, so that's why I was not thinking that far that far ahead.
But in one of my sessions this morning, somebody, a startup financer, I think somebody from the finance world, Prashant, she's in the finance world, she just threw a thought for the consideration of the room that, well, at 2047, India should aim to be $47 trillion.
Sure.
And I got my team to do a little bit of maths that if we were to grow at 8%, real growth, and personally I think it's not beyond imagination, not beyond the realm of probability. And given the kind of talent that is represented amongst your award winners, amongst the young people of India, what we experience when we go to the various campuses, the enthusiasm, the sheer confidence that they exude. If we were to do an 8% real growth, add inflation, and with that kind of a growth, obviously the kind of export numbers that we are seeing, we'll probably cross 750 billion this year. In the 75th year, it's very appropriate that we cross 750 billion. We are looking at 2 trillion by 2030, services and goods. And then when you extrapolate it further to 2047, we should be looking at $6 or $7 trillion of exports of goods and services. At that level, we'll start seeing the rupee also appreciating.
Yeah.
And thus, I wouldn't be surprised if we can actually break those barriers and really go forward with very, very strong numbers. We don't have to necessarily aspire to be only the third largest. That will be by 2027. Almost everybody is unanimous that India will be the third largest GDP in the world by 2027. And I think that's going to be the inflection point from where we'll just take off. And our aim is not only a developed India, but a developed India with inclusive growth, a developed India which takes prosperity to every single child born in this country. And that's where our startup ecosystem, I think, is making us proud.
No, undoubtedly. I mean, so it's the end of a long day, so that's why. Anyway, but I just want to ask you the 8% GDP growth. You would actually need to raise your savings rate to the mid-30s. I mean, I think that's, just a matter of, we'll have to have a savings rate of 33%. I think that's
I
what.
think Ashwini just showed us the curve upwards. We're already at 30. Kindly bear in mind, any economic student or somebody who understands the way capital is formed in the country will recall that in India, we had, in the second half of 30s, we were upward of 35% at one point of time.
That's right.
Where did we go wrong? Look back into the story 15 years ago.
The whole NPMS.
Yeah, exactly. So you know the whole thing, Bodhi. We went wrong when we started indiscriminately lending money to the wrong borrowers, and we in the startup world clearly know that it's the entrepreneur who matters more than the project and the idea. More often than not, Prashant will put in money on a good entrepreneur, even if the idea is half-baked, rather than put in money in a good idea, a big, fully baked idea, but where he's not comfortable with the entrepreneur. Our banking system, and maybe there was an element of telebanking which we are told prevailed in the 2006 to 2012 period in very big measure, when we saw bank credit going up by leaps and bounds. Vedi is nodding his head. He was very much a part of the banking system. And we saw the way banks used to lend indiscriminately. Now, that's the Chinese model. It's like what's happened in China. Nobody in this room knows the real story of the Chinese banks. I also don't know it. But the story is that the Chinese banks are all in trouble. But they used easy liquidity, lent money indiscriminately. They have not yet recognized the reality in their banking system. And we have a situation today where if that bubble was to burst one day, I think the third largest will quickly move to the
Yeah.
second largest
Well,
faster than
no,
you
no,
and I can imagine.
absolutely, absolutely.
And therefore, capital formation is something which I see happening in the country and happening very, very quickly.
Just pause for 1 minute.
I think we should welcome the Honorable Chief Minister with a round of
Minister has
applause.
joined. Welcome, sir.
You should say Namaskara
Namaskara.
in Bengaluru.
I'll ask you some local questions on the film. Anyway, at the end of this thing. So let me, one of the ways in which we can raise our growth rates, and you talked about is obviously exports, which is, and one of the ways exports can go up is through FTAs. So you now, where are we in terms of the FTA with the UK? And I think there's one with the EU, which is also perhaps following the UK one, which is in the works.
Both you will be very proud to know, as will every one of our friends assembled here today, that the entire world, literally the entire world today, wants to enter into an arrangement, a free trade agreement or an economic partnership with India. Something for every Indian to be proud, because they see the potential that each one of you has. The United Kingdom, they were very keen to close the free trade agreement by Diwali, but we are all aware of the political turmoil in that country over the last 3-4 months, which held them back. The European Union we launched a few months ago, and we've had 3 rounds already. Discussions are ongoing. But the European Union is 27 countries. And you need to build up consensus and literally negotiate a deal in which every one of them also gets interested and is willing to sign off. Canada, we are looking at an early progress partnership where we are trying to look at the low-hanging fruits. By the way, in the middle of my startup conference this afternoon, I also did a video call with my counterpart from Canada, Mary NG, because we've discussed and decided that every 15 days, we'll progress and review the progress of the FTA. That's the level of interest. And now, because of the UK delay, Canada is very keen that we want to be the first G7 country to sign up with India. So we are having 2 ladies, ministers, negotiating with India to see who goes first. Having said that, next week, we'll be launching another free trade agreement negotiation with a group of 6 countries. I've had 4 rounds of discussions where Switzerland Minister Guy Parmelin has been requesting me that they have a group of 4 countries, the EAEU alliance. They want to negotiate a free trade agreement. I remember when I became Commerce Minister in 19, at Davos I asked him in another engagement, 2 or 3 occasions, I asked them that we would like to do an FTA with you because EU at that time hadn't opened up. And they would just look at us with disdain. Now for the last 2 years, they've been asking me they want to do an FTA. I don't have bandwidth to get my teams. They're already doing 2 shifts. They do 1 negotiation in the morning, another in the evening. I'm worried we may not land up making mistakes, but they are very keen. Russia is a group of a few countries, EFTA probably, or I've confused the 2. Russia is EAU and Switzerland is EFTA. Everybody, Russia wants to start negotiating.
The European Free Trade Area, which is Switzerland. Yeah.
So they want to, Russia and its group of countries wants to start the FTA negotiations. I can tell you today the world is looking up to the big India opportunity. Look at the delta from 3.5 trillion. You have a delta which could be 32 trillion, which could be 40 trillion. We don't know. Yeah. They are also seeing it just like we can see it. They are also seeing the delta. No other part of the world has this kind of a delta in the next 25 years. And therefore, we are on a good sweet spot. But negotiations have to come up with a fair balanced and equitable agreement. No agreement is going to be signed up for the sake of an agreement. It has to be win-win for both. We'll need to open up some, they need to open up their markets for us. We need good market access. We need to be sure that the agreement gives tangible and substantial gains to both sides. And these agreements are not for a few years or a decade. They outlast probably all our lives. And therefore, one has to do it very carefully. In the past, our experiences when I go into the files, agreements were often rushed through. You can rush something. Time is not required to do a thing smarter or better. But sadly, the kind of deals that I'm finding did not give us the opportunities that we should have got in other countries, that we should have negotiated hard with other countries. We are being very, very cautious in our negotiations, but I can assure you, we will get good free trade agreements as and when we sign up. We'll open up large market opportunities for our startups, for our technologies, for our innovators in those countries. We are focusing on goods, we are focusing on services, we are looking at education in a big way, we are looking at working with these countries for joint collaborations in innovation, R&D. Sky's the limit, potential is huge. Together, with the support of all the participants here today and the startup ecosystem, which is now 82,000 strong and growing by the day, with the kind of technological innovations we are using for public good, to take services to the people, be it the ONDC, the Open Network for Digital Commerce, be it the success story of UPI, be it our effort for giving free food to 80 crore people through the COVID pandemic for 28 months now, so that not a single child or not a single family had to sleep hungry through this tough time. All of these measures are helping India strengthen at the core and become an economy ready to take off.
So I think we're coming to the end of our time. We'll just ask you one question. I think I've been reading the reports of some of your engagements in Bangalore. You've spoken about this local film Kanthara, which has been a phenomenal, I think, an all-India success. Why don't you talk a bit about that? What are the lessons which a movie like this with a low budget holds for the startup sector?
I think it's a great lesson for all of us. It shows us money can't buy you everything. So Kantara was a low budget film. I'm told at 16 or 18 crores the whole movie was made. B, you need to have your ideas right. You need to have clarity in thought. And Kantara presented its storyline with a great deal of clarity. C, you need to be connected to the masses. Kantara got resonance across the country, now going international also.
Right.
So it worked for a larger audience. It had an appeal to a larger audience, and which is one of our strengths today in India. Economies of scale. Economies of scales helps our technologies get bigger markets, helps us becoming low cost and more affordable. And I can give you so many examples, the LED old story being the least of all, which is public good, which helped our people and helped the nation in every respect. So Kantara in some sense shows us that our startups and the work that they are doing, very often, look at the spaceship that went out yesterday, or day before yesterday. And look at the work that's happening, let's say, in the various incubators across the country. We'll have another spaceship being launched next month, probably coming out of IIT Madras. And something which is only because the regulatory framework in India has now been made so friendly so that private sector can participate. Pawan Goenka has been made in charge of InSpace to encourage the private sector participation. Drones, there were so many policies holding us back from drones. We are now looking to have a leadership position in drones. So I think the idea behind the ease of doing business efforts, the efforts to make everything more and more public oriented, get the people and the Indian businesses and private sector involved, is to see if we can get business out of the common man's life and let the private sector flourish, give them more opportunity, they can create 1 million kantaras every single month, and they can serve the people of India through their innovations and their outstanding ideas at scale in a large country like India, so that our lives become easier, our businesses become better and much more profitable.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Request you to stay on stage. We'll have to give away a few awards. Let me assure you that the Economic Times also committed to the 30 trillion economy goal by 2047.
Don't squirm so much, Bodhi. 30 क्यों 40 पे जाओ यार.
Barabar. I agree. We should be. It'll help everyone. And so thank you. Thank you for those inspiring words. Thank you.
Thank you. May I please welcome the Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai, onto stage to join Mr. Piyush Goyal. Right, coming back to the awards now. Next up, we have the award for innovation. And to give away this award, may I invite the MD and CEO of IDFC First Bank, Mr. V. Vaidyanathan, to join the ministers on stage in giving away this award. The award, ladies and gentlemen, is called Top Innovator and goes to a company that aims to build a platform to help treat people with seemingly incurable diseases and enable access to newer technologies for the bottom 95%, the masses that Minister Goyal talked about. May I invite Jogin Desai, Dhruv Sareen, Rajarshi Pal and Rajani Babu of iSTEM onto stage. Sir, I have a quick question for you. We've seen all these science fiction movies in which you can grow organs in laboratories, no need of human donors anymore. Many of the people in this room, organs are going to eventually fail. Can we bank on the fact that you will provide us laboratory-grown organs?
Not me alone, but there's lots of organs being grown about 20 kilometers from here. For the eye, for the liver, for the lungs, all that. So in the next 10 to 15 years, absolutely, all this is happening.
All right. For those of you having a drink after this event, remember that a new liver you can get. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Vaidyanathan, for joining us on stage. I think a photo op is being asked for. Mr. Vaidyanathan, I think you need to join for the photo op. Thank you, Mr. Vaidyanathan. Our next award is called Comeback Kid. I'm going to request the Chief Minister to give away this award as well. As the name suggests, this is an award for a founder who's made a stunning comeback from tough times. This year's Comeback Kid is a person who's seen his share of troubles, from co-founder who quit, to a funding drought, to almost shutting down. But he's back with a bang. I can see him smiling. Shivkumar Ganeshan of Exotel, please come on stage to receive the award for Comeback Kid of the Year. Shivku, I have one question for you before you go. Probably the most important question of the evening. Now, how many men in this room? To identify as men, okay. Most men in this room don't know how to handle rejection. It's a serious problem. You've handled rejection multiple times. Any tips for the men in the room?
Why do you ask these 10 mark questions?
It is. You're winning an ET award for Comeback Kid. A tough question is the least I can ask you.
So every rejection is a new problem to be solved. That's how I look at it.
All right, men in the room, that's your advice. I'm going to request Minister Piyush Goyal to give away the next 3 awards. The next award reiterates the idea that behind every successful idea is a very gutsy woman. The award is called Woman Ahead and goes to a company that provides affordable, tech-enabled solutions to help school kids learn better and faster. They've impacted over 1.4 million school kids already. Please welcome Smita Dera of Lead School. Smita, quick question for you. Quick question for you. Mark Twain very famously said, never let school interfere with your education. Did you let your school interfere with your education?
I think I got my education despite the poor quality schools, and I'm trying to change that.
All right, well said. Congratulations, Smita. Moving on, our next award is for the Midas Touch. As the name suggests, this award goes to a woman or a man who has that magical ability to turn everything into gold. If you don't believe us, believe Freshworks, Browser Stack, ChargeBee, and Amagi. Shekhar Kirani of Axel Partners is our Midas Touch winner. Shekhar. Shekhar, quick question for you, if I can draw you away. You know, being Midas touch and all that is very fine. But the actual King Midas had a serious problem. Everything he touched turned to gold, including food. He eventually starved to death. Any lessons for VCs here?
Be foolish, be humble. I see, if you think India as a startup, as we all discussed, we are going to see another $7 trillion. And if the digitally influenced startups, I'm known as a 10x person inside my Axel portfolio companies. We will see 10x, which means we'll see tons of $100 billion companies, several $10 billion companies, and lots of unicorns.
Aapke muh mein ghee shakkar. Thank you, Shekhar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Minister.
I think it's important that we also recognize, while it may have a Midas touch and they may have made a lot of money, the good part about this team, Prashant is also here, the good part is everything is not about the money that they make. They give back to the whole startup ecosystem in a big way. So Prashant, for example, was instrumental in the last 3 days, the Bangalore Tech Summit that we've just seen. Many of you may have visited. He's a integral part of our Startup Advisory Council and really comes up with very serious, thought-provoking ideas. So thank you very much, Prashant. Keep up the good work.
Congrats, Shekhar. Right, we're down to the final award for this evening, but the evening is not yet over. Don't worry. It's the Startup of the Year. This year's winner is India's most valued fintech startup. They started with trying to rule the digital payments ecosystem and are now venturing into payroll management, neo-banking, and lending as well. The Startup of the Year is Razorpay. May I invite Harshil Mathur and Shashank Kumar of Razorpay. Harshil, Shashank, one quick question for you. Your company is called Razorpay, okay? Now, you guys are obviously razor sharp, all very good and dandy. But you strongly, a razor can also cut you very badly. Any lessons for startup founders here?
No, rightly said. I think the idea for us to choose the name Razorpay was to give a glimpse of something which is cutting edge, which is completely new and which is just playing at the edge of the world. But at the same time, you have to be careful about it. So I think that's the flavor of the season and it goes well with our name.
All right. Good advice for startup entrepreneurs there. Congratulations, Razorpay. May I now request the Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai, to say a few words to this August gathering.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡದ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Nandan is here. Economic Times has always come up with the best of it, their capabilities, and every year the Startup Awards. And I'm very happy that every year they are conducting in Bangalore. It's the right place. And our union minister, a dynamic union minister, who has combination of portfolios, and he has that kind of ability to do the best in each portfolios, even they are not really very well connected. He excels in food and civil supplies. He excels in ITBT, excels in industry. I don't know how he manages. But whenever he's around, it's full of energy, and he engages everybody. And see that everybody is given a kind of a target and a task, and really he moves the people and he moves the economy also. So we are very lucky to have such a dynamic minister. After a long time, we have a commerce industry minister of international status. He can excel in any international forum. I have seen quite a few of them. Having said that, Economic Times, the name itself speaks for a lot of things. Economy and time, these two are very, very closely related. Whenever I talk to my finance people, I say time and money. What is the real money? The real money is to have what we want at a time which we want. If there is money when we don't want, does its value is zero. And when we want, if it is not there, still it is zero. We should have the right kind of money at the right time. And both has been said in economical time. So a good money, good time means economical times. And economical times has been really in the forefront as far as business in India is concerned, economics in India is concerned, and they have been excelling with the international standards in their newspaper reporting. Every day, a good businessman should read Economic Times like a Bible. If he doesn't do it, he misses a lot. A man who reads Economic Times can hardly make any mistakes. As far as startups are concerned, I don't want to say anything. A lot has been said in the whole week. The other day, Piyush ji was there in the concluding sessions. We had best of the sessions tech summit, where more than 300 international delegates were there. More than 130 participated, companies participated. And we had more than 30 sessions where a lot of things were discussed which we normally doesn't discuss in any of the forums. It's a way forward for technology, development of technology for the betterment of human life. I have given certain targets to my people. I want Bangalore to be the number one in science and technology. It should be number one in startups. It should be number one in financial capital. It should become a financial capital of the country. I know that Piyush will not take it very kindly, but still, I want it to be the financial capital of the country. Startups are themselves really a wonderful experience. What are the startups are? Startup is you just start up. You don't know what you are doing. I am reading your mind. You really don't know what you are doing. you really don't know how it goes, and you really have got some goal, but you really doesn't know what the real goal is. But being adventure itself is a very creative thing. And being creative, always you get something. Unless until you put first forward, nothing is going to happen. And that kind of startup is not at all a venture. People who want to do venture don't come near startups. It is just an adventure. अंधेरे में तीर मरना है. लग गया तो दिवाली, नहीं लग गया तो भी दिवाली है. But Bangalore has become really a hub of startups. That eco culture has been developed now. And the startups are in such a field where we really never thought that there can be a venture or adventure or a startup in that field. Right from agrotech to the space, we have got startups. And for Bangaloreans, creating startup has become a habit. Creating unicorns has become a habit. And creating decacorn will also be a habit in the future. We have got 3 decacorns out of 4. And next year, I want at least 10 decacorns to be there in Bangalore. And I'm sure it is going to happen. That is the pool of talent what we have here. And it is not built overnight. It is the hard work of all our earlier industry leaders, scientists, engineers, and the subsequent governments which have been investment friendly on science and technology. It's all cumulative effect which has come down here. And every government has tried to do it better. They want to expand it, but my government is a little different. I want to scale it up. No, expansion is a very small word for me. आजकल सब कुछ expansion हो जाता है. So it has to scale up. And our leader Piyush Goyal ji has set very high standards for the economic growth of this country, as our Prime Minister has already said, that $5 trillion by 2025. Karnataka wants to contribute $1 trillion by 2025. We are just 50% mark. So in next 2 years, we have to do the miracle so that the next half achievement will be done in next 2 years. What has been achieved in 75 years, it should be achieved in 2 years. That is the target I have. And I am confident that we will do it. One thing which is out of this, I got time for 2 minutes? If I have. I am a student of economics and philosophy. Both are very contradicting. There is profit and loss in economics, and there is papa punya in philosophy. So, but I look paradoxical. I try to look papa punya in economics and profit loss in philosophy. And my dear friends, let me tell you, it's a great experience. It's a great experience. Both are motivating. Think of a business which is profitable at also you earn punya. Imagine that. What a value addition to your profit. We think profit is a value addition. No. Adding punya to the profit is value addition. So the path to have that profit should be such a neat, clean path. You feel satisfied and you earn that kind of a goodwill of a creator. Secondly, profit and loss in philosophy. See, man has got a habit of always looking into profit and loss. ये किया तो मुझे क्या मिलेगा? वो किया तो मुझे क्या मिलेगा? नहीं मिला तो क्यों करना? मिलना है तो क्या करना? Lot of questions come out. Therefore, there is a motivation to earn punya also. If there is profit in earning punya, Everybody, all businessmen will try to earn punya. Either way you get profit, either way you get punya. So, philosophy and economics will go together. However, Disraeli, the great democratic, has said that there is no magic in economics, only results. Therefore, look for the results, look for the targets, work on it. In Bangalore, I told the other day, thoughts meets the technology. Success meets the sustainability. Therefore, I want everybody to be successful and sustain that success so that you can achieve higher. And startup is one thing, what is known as lateral thinking. The same thing is there in the startups. Think differently, think out of the box or kick out the box. There is one startup called Kick Out Box or Bangalore Kick Out or Bangalore Box Kick Out. Something is there already and it won the award also. So, you have to be kicking out. You have to do something different and have that energy, have a belief in yourself, be successful. And I congratulate all the award winners here who have done extraordinary in their field, and they are the great motivators for us. They are the hope for us. You have made us proud. You have made us proud, and we are proud of you. And we'll also make you proud with our good policies. Thank you.
Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Just 2 more minutes, Chief Minister and Mr. Goyal. 2 more minutes. May I now invite the MD and CEO of IDFC First Bank, Mr. V. Vaidyanathan, for his closing remarks. Mr. Vaidyanathan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely a great pleasure for all of us in this room today to have witnessed this wonderful event. And Mr. Vaishnav, you really blew us away with your outstanding presentation. It was just wonderful. We all are so inspired, all of us in this room, about what a new, amazing India we are going to create. And thank you very much for all the hard work you're doing, and the Prime Minister for bringing this alive for us. Mr. Piyush Goyal, you did absolutely wonderful. You motivated all of us a lot. You know, this question asked by Suresh to me earlier, saying that how much money is enough? You know, on reflection, I should say $30 trillion. Really, $30 trillion, because we want to be a developed country. So no other answer is a good enough answer. So really, we want to be. Number three, I have because you're associated with the program and we have the opportunity of saying a few words to you. I just want to introduce our bank to you, and I really request all the startups to build your relationship with us, and I'll tell you why. The reason why I describe a bank to you is that I must say that we are not as well known as the big 3 or 4 banks in the country, because I must say we are maybe the next league of banks, so to say. We knew, but we had the opportunity of starting many things afresh in terms of our thinking, and very proud of that. We, in a vision sense of the bank, we firmly embed ethical banking and customer-first banking as a very key theme of the bank. Now, you can say, it's just a statement, but it's not. Saying it is one thing, but living it is something else. And we are really making every effort to live it. Now, how do you live, say, an ethical bank statement or a customer-first position? We actually went, to give you one example, we went and checked out the long list of charges that we charge from customers. And we went and checked with our customers whether they understand the statements of banks. For example, let me say, anywhere bank charges, this is the bank, a branch that's outside of you, that's a non-home branch, the charges for that, cash deposited branches is charge structure, cash withdrawal from branches is a cash structure, let me say IMPS, RTGS, everything is charge. So we went and did a research and found customers don't understand this. Believe it or not, 25 charges, you'll be astonished to note, 25 charges, our bank scrapped all the charges, made it plain zero. So you don't understand it, don't charge you. So basically, and people are actually astonished, how can you really do this? Man, if you're running a bank, how do you not charge for
25 charges which are, millions of customers are paying. So we say we're a new bank. We really don't want any penny in our pocket that doesn't belong to us or customers, which we earned it a really neat way. Not that any other bank is earning any other way. They're all disclosing, transparent banks, nothing wrong about that. But just that we are new and we have the opportunity of starting fresh. We're the first bank in the country, 75 years in the country, India is paying interest on savings accounts on a quarterly basis. I'm so proud we're the first bank to start paying interest on savings accounts on a monthly basis to customers. So customers are saying interest like a, so basically, just a few examples, the list can go on, to say that we're building a truly happy bank. All of us are very thrilled with what we're building. I'm telling you, your bank is doing really wonderfully well. And, it's a startup award. So I must just say that startups have talked about profitability, but we are also relatively a startup bank. But I must say that we're a profitable bank, and we're making close to about annualized profit over 2,000 crores. So you should know that we're a very profitable bank, so you can very confidently bank with us. The last thing is about Startup Award, since we talked about it today. Obviously, all of us who witnessed the program are very proud of all the entrepreneurs who built who are doing amazing things. We are all, of course, as a country, also very proud. 100 unicorns, 100 on the way, Sonicons, and maybe 70,000 startups, 20,000 coming up every year. It's all like thrilling things. But the most amazing thing is that actually it's only going to get better. And really, I'll tell you why. Because when we say we are like a $3 trillion economy becoming, say, $7 trillion in 2030, just imagine $7 trillion. I mean, that's like 2030, like right in our eyes. Minister Goel talked about $47 trillion. I mean, I'm just salivating to think about it. But even just this number. So that is a kind of, demand that will come, internal demand. Minister Vaishnav talked about how much the EPFO and employment getting created. That much more employment will get created. So that kind of demand will come in the country. That's really amazing. And to couple it up, that's more important. To couple it up, India is becoming rapidly digitized under the Digital India mission of the government of India. And that's also very powerful. None of I'm sure all startups will agree that nobody could have made all the, billion-dollar valuations if India and the government of India, RBI, had not created the, UPI railroad. It's impossible to have built all the billions. The ONDC is the next big thing, and the father of this ONDC and the Digital India is in front of us, Nandan Nilekani. All of us should give him a really big hand, and I will say that it's really a privilege for all of us to even be with him. So the point is that with the new digital India, economy coming about, coupled with the growth of the Indian economy, that will set us up, and coupled with the platforms India is setting up in terms of UPI, ONDC, and AA, account aggregator, and many things that are coming up in India, many more unicorns and startups will come up. So I'm honestly very confident that they'll come up. And when we see all the global corporations and about how India, globe is building startup ecosystems, I would definitely say that, Minister Bommai talked about one very interesting thing today, that he wants to build a startup ecosystem in the city, and India really needs to build that. And you know what that means. It's just not building startups, it's really the whole ecosystem. So we'll talk about some other day. And Mr. Bommai Chief Minister really talked about one very fantastic line. I noted it in my head, saying that Punya and profits, that's, I think it's a great line you left for all of us. I'm personally not so much into Punya or anything like that, because I believe that work should show. But I'm really more into concept. I really love the concept you said, and I think all our startups have something to take away today. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure, and I do invite all of you to go associate with us. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Vaidyanathan. Thank you very much. Ministers, I'm just going to hold you back for 30 seconds. I know you have other appointments to go to. May I request all of tonight's winners to quickly come up on stage with your trophy for a photo op with the Chief Minister of Karnataka and the Union Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal. Quickly, can you come up, because I think they're both in a bit of a hurry. So. There's also an offer for all of you. There's an IDFC has a fascinating photo booth just outside this room. If you'd like to grace the cover of a magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year, just pop into that photo booth and ask a friend of yours to take that photo. That brings us to the end of the ET Startup Award 2022. Thank you to our presenting partner, IDFC First Bank. Thanks also to our partners, the Leela Bengaluru, Traction, and ET Now. Once again, if you'd like to go social with today's awards, use the hashtag ET Startup. Please join us for dinner and drinks. Thank you very much. See you next year.